Imagine your life is a perfect puzzle. You found your soulmate, planned the wedding, built a future together, and then, with just one phone call, it all shatters. What are you doing? Come back to bed, baby. A stranger's voice in your conversation with her. What would you do? Trust her? Investigate? Or hire a private detective to uncover the truth? Get ready, because this story will shake you to the core. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. Melissa and I had been together for 4 years, engaged for 1, and our wedding was just a few months away. She embodied everything I had ever wished for. Brilliant, breathtaking, and full of an infectious energy that made life feel more vivid. Her laughter had a way of wrapping around me, making me feel like I was the center of her universe. Ours was more than just love. It was a true partnership. We had built a life together, purchased a charming home in a peaceful neighborhood, and laid down the foundation for our future. We even shared dreams of starting a family one day. I never doubted that what we had was unbreakable, that her devotion to me was as deep as mine was to her. Then came the Miami trip. Melissa had planned a getaway with her 2 closest friends, Camilla and Rachel, a simple girls' retreat, a final carefree adventure before settling into the responsibilities of marriage and family. There was no reason for concern. I trusted her implicitly. The night before she left, we lay side by side, her fingers absent-mindedly running through my hair. "I'm going to miss you," she murmured, pressing a soft kiss against my cheek. I grinned. "You better," I teased. "Just don't have too much fun without me." She chuckled, that familiar warm sound I adored. "It's just Miami, Jeremy, not some wild bachelorette party." I laughed along, believing her completely. The next morning, I drove her to the airport, kissed her goodbye, and reminded her to text when she landed. And she did. At first, everything seemed normal. That Thursday evening, she sent me a picture of their extravagant seafood dinner, oysters, lobster, champagne, the kind of indulgence she loved. A short video followed, showing the breathtaking ocean view from their hotel balcony, Miami's skyline shimmering in the night. "Wish you were here. You'd love this place," she wrote. We spoke briefly before she went to bed. She sounded happy, relaxed. Nothing seemed amiss. "Miss you already," she whispered before hanging up. "Miss you too, babe," I replied, feeling content. She even sent her usual goodnight text, something she never skipped when we were apart. But by Friday, things changed. That morning, I sent her a quick message. "Morning, babe. How's Miami?" No reply. At first, I dismissed it. Maybe she was sleeping in. But as the hours passed and my phone remained silent, a subtle unease crept in. Melissa wasn't the type to leave messages unanswered for long. She was always quick to respond, even if it was just a short text. Finally, a little after 1 in the afternoon, she finally replied. "Sorry, babe. Just been super busy. Love you." That was all. No details, no playful emojis, just a short, impersonal message. I stared at the screen, frowning. Busy? Doing what? I tried to shake the feeling that something was off. Maybe they were just caught up sightseeing, shopping, enjoying their time. But something about that text didn't sit right. That night, I decided to call her. No answer. 15 minutes later, I tried again. Straight to voicemail. A tight knot formed in my chest. Melissa always answered no matter what. If she couldn't talk, she'd at least text me back. Something was wrong. I checked her last online status. She had been active just 10 minutes earlier. She was on her phone, just not talking to me. I called once more, straight to voicemail. I exhaled sharply, setting my phone down. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe she was just caught up in the moment with her friends. But deep inside, something gnawed at me, a quiet instinct whispering that something wasn't right. The next morning, she finally called. Her voice was bright, too bright. "Hey, babe," she greeted me with a forced enthusiasm. "Sorry I missed your calls last night. We went out and it got super late." I sat up in bed, rubbing a hand over my face. Her tone was smooth, too polished. Still, I kept my voice neutral. "Oh yeah? Where'd you go?" "Just a bar Camilla wanted to check out," she answered quickly. "Then we grabbed tacos by the beach. So good." She was speaking too fast, adding details I hadn't asked for, filling the silence with unnecessary words. It sounded rehearsed. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust that everything was fine. But something in her voice made my stomach twist uncomfortably. "Sounds fun. Wish I was there," I said carefully, waiting for her reaction. "I know," she cooed. "I miss you." A brief pause stretched between us, just long enough that I thought the conversation was ending. And then I heard it. A deep, groggy male voice close to her. Too close. "What are you doing? Come back to bed, baby." The call disconnected, and just like that, my world fell apart. I remained frozen in place, the phone still pressed against my ear, every muscle in my body locked with tension. My heartbeat pounded so fiercely that it seemed to reverberate inside my skull. Had I really just heard that? My mind scrambled, grasping at any plausible explanation that could make sense of this. Maybe it was just background noise from a television, or perhaps some drunken prankster. Maybe one of her friends had invited their boyfriend to the hotel. I ran through every conceivable excuse, desperately clinging to any reality that wasn't the one I instinctively knew to be true. But no, there was no mistaking that voice. It was intimate, possessive. He wasn't just nearby, he was with her, in bed. And in that moment, every unanswered call, every delayed text, every flimsy excuse, every subtle shift in her tone suddenly made sense. A wave of nausea rolled over me. My first instinct was to hurl my phone across the room, to shout, to break something, anything to externalize the storm raging inside me. But I didn't. Instead, I sat motionless, my hands clenched into fists, staring at the screen as if willing it to change reality. Melissa wasn't on a simple weekend trip with her friends. She was with another man. I couldn't let myself spiral into endless speculation. That voice, those words, replayed in my head like a taunt. "Come back to bed, baby." It wasn't an offhanded remark. It was something I was never meant to hear. I needed proof. Irrefutable, undeniable proof. I wasn't about to confront her and allow her the opportunity to twist the truth, to gaslight me into believing I was imagining things. That same day, I made a decision. I hired a private investigator. His name was Tyrone, an older guy, former law enforcement. He came highly recommended by a mutual acquaintance. I laid out the situation, transferred the payment immediately. "Find her. Get photos. I need evidence." His reply was short and professional. "Understood. I'll be in Miami tonight." I ended the call and exhaled sharply, my grip tightening around my phone. This was real. I had just hired someone to track my own fiancé. The thought made me sick, but there was no turning back. By the next afternoon, my phone vibrated. Tyrone. My pulse spiked as I grabbed it, answering immediately. I found her. There was something in his tone, a quiet sympathy. My chest constricted, my grip tightening. Then came the words that would change everything. "She's not just with her friends, Jeremy. She's with another man." The words struck like a hammer to my gut. My throat went dry. I forced myself to respond. "What did you see?" Tyrone sighed, as if reluctant to be the bearer of this truth. They're holding hands, hugging, kissing. I took pictures, sending them now. A moment later, my phone vibrated again. I hesitated before looking, as if some part of me still clung to the hope that this was all a misunderstanding, that I was wrong, that there was an explanation. I tapped the first image. There she was, Melissa, My Melissa, seated at an outdoor cafe, laughing, leaning into another man. Her hand rested on his arm in a way that made it clear this wasn't just friendship. My stomach twisted violently. Maybe it wasn't what it seemed. Maybe it was an innocent moment taken out of context. But then I swiped to the next image, her lips on his. Not a quick, accidental brush. Not a mistake. It was deep, intentional, familiar. The way their bodies pressed together, the way her fingers curled against his chest, the way his arms secured her waist. It was everything I needed to know. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't hesitation. This was deliberate. My breathing slowed, but not in a way that brought calm. It was controlled, too controlled. I kept scrolling. Another photo. Them walking along the beach, fingers intertwined, bodies close, perfectly synchronized, as if they had done it 100 times before. As if they were a couple. Something inside me cracked. There it was. Cold, irrefutable proof. The woman I had planned to build a life with hadn't just gone on a trip with her friends. She had orchestrated an affair, so openly, so recklessly, as if she had never expected me to find out. My fingers clenched around my phone until my knuckles turned white. My chest burned with a fire that refused to be extinguished. I wanted to remain rational, but there was no room for composure, only fury. She had no idea what was coming. I didn't call her, didn't ask for an explanation, didn't give her a chance to weave lies. The photos told the only story that mattered. There was nothing left to discuss, nothing left to salvage. So I acted. My first call was to the wedding venue. Cancel everything. There was a pause on the other end before the receptionist hesitantly asked if I wanted to reschedule. I didn't bother justifying my decision. There was no need. Then I contacted the caterers, the photographer, the florist. Every detail we had spent a year planning wiped away in minutes. But I wasn't finished. The next call was to a locksmith. How soon can you get here? My voice was steady, unshaken. Within the hour, he replied. Perfect. By the time he arrived, I had already begun collecting her things. I scoured every room, making sure to remove every trace of her, clothes, shoes, bags, anything that belonged to her. Methodically, I packed each item into boxes, determined to erase any sign that she had ever lived here. Once I was done, I printed out the photos Tyrone had sent me. One by one, I slipped them into a folder. Solid proof of her betrayal, undeniable evidence of the life she had chosen over ours. By nightfall, every remnant of her was sealed away. I stood there, letting the weight of it all sink in. She had made her decision. Now, I was making mine. She would never step foot in this house again. Melissa was expected back Tuesday evening, and I had ensured that everything was in place. Her belongings were neatly stacked in the front yard, like a delivery waiting to be picked up. But I wasn't just going to leave her things out and vanish. No, she needed to feel this. She needed to understand the consequences of what she had done. That's why I reached out to Dominic, an old friend, someone she had never met. I needed an outsider, a neutral face she wouldn't recognize, and Dominic fit the part perfectly. Before he arrived, I moved my car a few blocks away, making sure there was no sign that I was still home. Dominic pulled into the driveway in his own vehicle, adding to the illusion that this house no longer belonged to me. He stepped out, surveying the stacked boxes with mild curiosity. "You sure you want to go through with this?" he asked, arms crossed. "No doubt about it," I replied. He nodded once. "All right, let's do it." And so we waited. Right on time, a taxi rolled up in front of the house. From my hiding spot, I watched as Melissa stepped out, suitcase in hand, her face bright with expectation, oblivious to what was coming. But the moment she noticed the boxes and the unfamiliar car in the driveway, she stopped cold. Confusion flickered across her face, quickly giving way to panic. She hesitated, scanning the area as if waiting for me to appear. Then, with growing urgency, She hurried toward the front door, her heels clicking against the pavement. She reached for her key and tried the lock. Nothing. She tried again. Still locked. From my concealed vantage point, I watched as frustration gave way to desperation. She pounded on the door. "Jeremy, open up!" she called, her voice edged with fear. Instead, it was Dominic who calmly answered. Melissa recoiled, her face twisted in confusion. "Who the hell are you?" she demanded. Dominic smirked. "Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. What are you doing at my house?" Her eyes widened in disbelief. "Your house? What are you talking about? Where's Jeremy?" Dominic shrugged. "The guy who used to live here? He sold it. I just bought the place yesterday." Melissa's mouth fell open, but no words came out. Her gaze darted between Dominic and the locked door, her mind scrambling for an explanation. "No. That's impossible." "This is my house," she insisted. "Where's Jeremy?" Dominic reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder. "He figured you might show up. He left this for you." He held it out to her. Her hands trembled as she accepted the folder, her breath coming in shallow gasps. She hesitated, then flipped it open. And there it was, photo after photo. Her at the cafe, leaning too close to another man, their hands brushing. A kiss. The two of them walking along the beach, fingers entwined, the unmistakable gestures of lovers. She gripped the edges of the photos as if trying to hold herself together. Her body swayed slightly, as though she had been struck. From my hiding place, I watched as the color drained from her face, her posture crumbling under the weight of what she was seeing. Her breath hitched as she shuffled through the images again, as if hoping they would somehow reveal a different story. They didn't, because the truth never changes. The folder slipped from her grasp, its contents scattering onto the pavement. She lifted trembling hands to her face, horror and guilt flooding her expression. Dominic remained silent, watching impassively. And then she turned and ran. She didn't pick up the photos. She didn't call out my name. She didn't try to explain. She just left. That night, my phone lit up with call after call. When I ignored them, the messages started flooding in. "Jeremy, please talk to me. I can explain. It's not what it looks like. Please, I love you. Just talk to me." I never replied. I didn't need to. She had made her choice, and now she had to live with it. By morning, I had packed up the last of my belongings and walked away. The house, once filled with memories, had become nothing more than an empty shell. A few weeks later, I sold it for real. No more Melissa, no more wedding, no more betrayal. And just like that, I was free. This story has come to an end. The pain of betrayal is a blow we don't choose, but the strength to rise from it is ours to decide. This story is a reminder that trust takes years to build, but only seconds to shatter. No one deserves lies, manipulation, or infidelity. If you ever face betrayal, don't search for excuses. Accept the truth, learn from it, and move forward. Sometimes loss isn't the end, it's freedom. Loyalty and respect are the foundation of love, and those who don't value them don't deserve you. Walk away with your head held high, because true love never betrays. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you. She thought she could control him forever. 10 years of marriage, built on trust and love, shattered in a single evening. She told him she needed space, but behind those words hid a deeper truth. He didn't beg, he didn't plead, he simply let go. But here's what she never expected. Freedom can feel a lot like loneliness, and indifference can be the most painful revenge. While she embraced her new life, he quietly disappeared from hers. And by the time she realized it, it was already too late. What happens when the person who once gave you everything suddenly stops caring? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watch this video from. Now, let's get started. Fiona and I had been married for 10 years, a decade woven together not just by shared memories, but by real experiences that had shaped us. We met in college, our lives slowly intertwining from nothing, built brick by brick through struggles and triumphs. We weathered financial hardships side by side, celebrating every small success and supporting each other through every setback. I had never been under any illusions. Marriage wasn't a never-ending stream of bliss. But I had believed, with absolute certainty, that what we had was unshakable. That belief shattered in an instant, undone by a single phrase she uttered one evening. We sat at the dinner table, the sound of silverware against porcelain, the only thing breaking the silence. I had cooked spaghetti, her favorite. She barely touched her plate. At first, I thought she was just exhausted from work, burdened by stress. She seemed distracted, her movements slow and absent-minded as she twirled pasta around her fork without ever bringing it to her lips. Lowering my glass, I studied her carefully. "Fiona, are you okay?" She released a long breath, her gaze fixed downward. And then, in a voice that seemed to pull the air straight from my lungs, she said, "Xander, I need some space." The words felt foreign, as if they belonged to someone else, spoken in a language I didn't understand. I set my fork down, leaning slightly forward. "Space?" She nodded, still avoiding my eyes. "Yeah." Her voice was steady, her tone unwavering. I need to be on my own for a while. I need to figure things out." A heavy silence settled between us. My mind raced, trying to grasp the meaning behind what she had just said. Figure things out? Independence? From what? We had never lived in some stifling, oppressive bubble. She had always made her own choices, moved freely, lived without restrictions. I had never been possessive, never interrogated her about where she went or who she spent time with. I never pried into her phone or hovered over her like some jealous shadow. Our marriage had always been built on trust. So why was she suddenly asking for something she already had? Independence from what? My voice remained measured, but there was a sharp edge beneath the calm. She gave a weak shrug, still refusing to meet my eyes. "I don't know. I just feel stuck." Her words carried no emotion, no anger or sadness, only a detached emptiness, as though she had rehearsed this conversation over and over before finally bringing herself to say it. Stuck. That was new. Just weeks ago, we had talked about the future, about moving into a bigger house, maybe even starting a family. She had smiled at the thought. And now, suddenly, she was trapped? I could have demanded an explanation, pushed her for answers, fought to fix whatever problem had surfaced without warning. But I didn't. Because deep inside, I knew. This wasn't about space. It wasn't about independence. Something else was at play. And so, instead of clinging to her, I did the last thing she expected. I let go. "All right," I said, leaning back in my chair. She hesitated, her grip tightening around her fork. "Wait. What? You need space? Take it." Her eyes widened slightly, caught off guard by how easily I agreed. I could see it, the flicker of uncertainty, the brief flash of doubt. This wasn't the reaction she had expected. Maybe she had anticipated resistance, pleas, a desperate attempt to keep her from slipping away. Maybe she had wanted to feel irreplaceable. But I refused to play that role. And for the briefest moment, something shifted in her expression. Perhaps she had imagined a scenario where she could ask for distance while keeping me tethered, waiting, ready to catch her if she decided to return. But that wasn't going to happen. That night, everything between us changed. At first, she seemed almost liberated. She started going out more, staying out later. Her wardrobe changed, new dresses, higher heels, styles she had never worn before. And then there was her phone. Before, she had left it lying around, untouched and unlocked, notifications flashing freely. Now, it was always in her hand, always buzzing. And if I walked into the room, she would tilt the screen away or lock it immediately. I said nothing. I stopped asking where she was going, stopped waiting up for her when she came home late, stopped checking in. And she barely seemed to notice. For a while, she thought she had won. But people who chase freedom rarely anticipate how empty it feels when they finally have it. And that's exactly what started happening. The cracks appeared gradually, small, almost imperceptible at first, a hesitation where there had once been confidence, a flicker of uncertainty in her movements. And then, one night, she stumbled through the front door well past midnight. The woman who stood before me was no longer the Fiona I had known, the one who used to send a quick text if she was running late, the one who used to slip into bed carefully so she wouldn't wake me. This version of her entered our home like she owed no one an explanation, bracing herself as if expecting an argument. I sat on the couch, phone in hand, completely at ease. I didn't look up right away, but I could feel her watching me, waiting for a reaction. After a moment, she shifted, crossing her arms. "You're not even going to ask where I was?" I glanced at her briefly, before turning my attention back to my screen. No. That wasn't the answer she was expecting. Her eyes narrowed slightly, like she was trying to determine whether I was serious. She had wanted freedom, and she had it. But maybe, just maybe, she was beginning to realize that freedom felt an awful lot like loneliness. She lingered a moment longer, as if daring me to react. When I didn't, she let out a quiet, exasperated sigh, rolling her eyes before turning toward the bedroom. But just before she disappeared down the hall, I caught a glimpse of something, an instant of frustration, barely concealed. She wanted me to push back, to prove that I still cared. But I didn't. And in that brief moment, she realized it. Something between us had shifted. A week later, things escalated. Fiona's texts became more frequent, but they weren't the usual reminders or mundane requests. No mentions of picking up groceries, no casual check-ins about household chores. Instead, she wanted to know where I was. The first time, I was out with friends when my phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. "Where are you?" I read the message and set my phone down without responding. An hour later, another text arrived. "Are you coming home soon?" I ignored that one too. For months, I had been little more than an afterthought in her world. And now, suddenly, she was keeping tabs on me? The irony almost made me laugh. The next evening, as I was getting ready to go out again, the shift became undeniable. I had just finished buttoning my shirt when Fiona appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, leaning against the frame. Her eyes followed my movements. "Where are you going?" she asked, trying to sound indifferent, but the tension in her voice was impossible to miss. "Out," I answered, fastening my watch. Her brow creased. "With who?" I smirked, picking up my keys. "Why does it matter?" She hesitated, visibly caught off guard. I didn't think you'd start pulling away like this." And there it was. The moment of realization. The illusion she had carefully crafted was beginning to fracture. For weeks, she had pretended my absence made no difference, but now she was on the receiving end of that same indifference. And she hated it. But the truth was, I didn't. For the first time, I wasn't waiting. I wasn't wondering. I wasn't wasting energy on someone who had already moved on in every way except in name. She had wanted space. Now she had it. And only now did she understand that it wasn't what she wanted at all. Then it happened. Fiona had left her phone on the coffee table before stepping into the kitchen. Normally, she kept it locked. Not this time. I hadn't been searching for anything, hadn't intended to invade her privacy, but as I glanced at the screen, a message popped up. "I miss you. When can I see you again?" The words glowed against the dark screen, cutting through whatever remnants of hope I hadn't realized I was still holding on to. My stomach tightened, but my expression remained unreadable. No anger, no surprise, just confirmation of what I had suspected all along. She never needed space. She never needed time to think. That had all been a carefully woven lie, one she had fed to both of us. What she had truly wanted was the freedom to explore someone else without losing the security I provided. She wanted options, a fallback plan, a husband waiting in the wings while she entertained something new. And now, for the first time, she was realizing she had miscalculated. I stared at the screen a moment longer but didn't reach for the phone. I didn't scroll through her messages or try to figure out how long it had been going on. Because in that moment, everything was clear. I didn't care anymore. Whoever he was, whatever had been happening, it no longer mattered. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of a confrontation. I wouldn't ask her who he was, how long it had been, or why she had done it. I already knew the answer. She had convinced herself she could have both. That I would always be there, waiting, while she tested the waters elsewhere. But she had already lost me. And now, she was the one with something to lose. The next morning, I didn't hesitate. I got dressed, grabbed my car keys, and drove straight to a lawyer's office. There was no doubt, no second guessing. I had made my decision the night before. This marriage was over. The lawyer was efficient, all business. I told him exactly what I wanted, a clean break. No drawn-out battles, no unnecessary drama, just signatures, paperwork, and my freedom. He nodded, asked a few questions, and started drafting the documents. By the time I walked out of his office, the process was already in motion. I drove home, knowing Fiona wouldn't be there. The night before, she had mentioned running errands, and for once, I was grateful. I didn't want to see her. I walked inside and wasted no time. I pulled out a suitcase and started packing. Only the essentials, clothes, toiletries, a few personal items. Moving through the house, I saw how deeply our lives had been intertwined. But there was no nostalgia, no hesitation, no regret. Before I left, I made one last stop in the kitchen. I opened the drawer where we kept our important documents and pulled out our marriage certificate. I stared at it for a moment, absorbing the weight of everything it represented. Then, without a second thought, I tore it in half and placed the pieces in the center of the table. That was my farewell. With my suitcase in hand, I stepped out the door and never looked back. That evening, I checked into a hotel, and for the first time in a long while, I felt free. The stillness of the room wasn't suffocating. It was a quiet relief. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt a sense of ownership over my own life. It was as if I had finally taken the wheel, steering toward something that was mine alone. A couple of hours after settling in, my phone buzzed. Fiona. I let it ring. Then it rang again, and again. The messages followed. Xander, where are you? Why is your stuff gone? Please, talk to me. I didn't respond. She would find out soon enough. A few days later, she was served with the divorce papers. It wasn't long before my phone started vibrating again. This time, I chose to answer. The moment the call connected, her voice poured through, frantic, urgent. Xander, what is this? What are you doing? I leaned back, unwavering. Ending this. Her breath caught. You're serious? Completely. Silence stretched between us before she finally spoke, her tone shifting, soft, pleading. Xander, please. Can we just talk? Whatever this is, we can fix it. A humorless chuckle escaped me. Fix it? You are the problem, Fiona. And I know. Another pause. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she asked, Know what? I didn't sugarcoat it. I didn't soften the impact. I told her the truth, cold and sharp. I know you've been cheating. A sharp inhale. Xander, I didn't let her finish. That's why you needed space, right? That's why you wanted independence? To figure things out? I exhaled, already drained by this conversation. Turns out I needed space too, and I figured out that I don't need you. The tears started, calculated and performative. I made a mistake. I wasn't thinking clearly. That's your problem now. Xander, please don't do this. I said nothing. I ended the call and blocked her number. Then I shut off my phone, leaned back in my chair, and for the first time in years, I smiled. My life was finally mine again. The divorce was swift, no dragged-out fights, no last-ditch efforts to hold on. She didn't contest it, probably knowing she had no real ground to stand on. When it was over, I moved forward. A new job came along, and for the first time, I was living for myself. Months passed. Fiona became nothing more than a distant memory, a lesson learned. Then, one evening, I ran into her at the grocery store. She looked different. Not bad, just worn, like someone who had spent too much time chasing something that was never really there. She saw me first, hesitated, then, as if deciding there was nothing left to lose, walked over. Xander. Her voice was cautious, her smile small. I acknowledged her with a nod. Fiona. Her gaze flickered to my cart before returning to my face. You look good. Thanks. I didn't return the compliment. She shifted on her feet, exhaled, then spoke. Look, I wanted to say I'm sorry. I raised an eyebrow. For what exactly? She swallowed. For everything. For taking you for granted. For making the worst mistake of my life. A pause. Then, almost as an afterthought, she added, It didn't work out with him. I nearly laughed. Of course it didn't. She took a deep breath. I don't expect you to forgive me, but maybe we could try again? I studied her for a long moment before shaking my head. No, Fiona. We can't. Her face fell. Xander, please. I cut her off. You lost me, and there's no coming back from that. Her shoulders sagged. She looked like she had more to say, but simply nodded, blinking back tears. I get it. I gave her one last look before turning away. As I left the store, I felt no anger, no regret, just freedom. This story has come to an end. In relationships, trust is not an endless resource. When one person decides to take a break, they must be prepared for the other to learn how to live without them. Love is not something you can put on hold while searching for something better. This story is a lesson about the value of loyalty and the consequences of betrayal. Sometimes, when you think you can leave and come back anytime, you realize you've been left behind alone. Don't play with someone's feelings. Don't destroy what took years to build, because not every door stays open forever. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you? Imagine being married for 20 years, a perfect house, family, stability. Now imagine coming home early one day to find your wife dressed to impress, calmly telling you, I'm going away for the weekend, with another man. And no, she's not joking. Just one time. I need this for me. What would you do? Beg her to stay? Pretend it's fine? Or walk away for good? This isn't a made-up story. This is real. A marriage shattered in one night. But what he does next will shock you. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watch this video from. Now, let's get started. My name is Kevin Trexler. At the time these events unfolded, my wife Diana and I had been married a little over 2 decades. Our journey together began back in college, where we first crossed paths. Not long after earning our degrees, we decided to get married. Over the years, we built a family with our 2 daughters, Jolynn and Sabrina, who were just a year apart in age. Jolynn had recently embarked on her freshman year at a large state university a couple of hours away, while Sabrina was finishing her last year of high school, still uncertain about where she would continue her education. There was even a possibility that she might join her sister at the same college. Like most siblings, our daughters had their share of disagreements, but beneath the squabbles, there was a strong connection. They always had each other's backs. When Jolene left for college 6 weeks earlier, the absence left a noticeable emptiness in our home. Both Diana and I felt it. The house seemed too quiet, and while we were proud of Jolene and excited for this new phase of her life, it didn't take away from the fact that something felt missing. I was a partner at a major accounting firm, while Diana had built a career as a supervisor at a local building supply company. She had gone back to work once the girls were older and had steadily climbed the professional ladder. Although her college degree was in English, she had found real satisfaction in her current job. Financially, we were secure. My earnings were higher than Diana's, but together, we had built a comfortable life. We owned a beautiful home, drove nice cars, and had the kind of stability that many people strive for. Yet having a stable life didn't mean everything was perfect. There was a subtle distance between Diana and me, something unspoken yet persistent, and perhaps it had been growing for longer than we cared to admit. With one daughter off at college and the other wrapped up in high school activities, Diana and I were entering a different stage of our lives. There were no fights or heated arguments, but there was an unmistakable sense of detachment between us, and neither of us seemed ready to confront it. That Friday afternoon, I decided to leave work early, looking forward to an uninterrupted weekend with Diana. Sabrina was away on a school trip until Sunday night, giving us a rare opportunity to focus on each other. I imagined a romantic dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant, followed by a quiet evening at home, just the two of us. Lately, something had felt off, and I hoped that spending time together might help mend whatever had started to shift between us. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Diana's car was already parked in the garage. That seemed promising. Maybe she had similar plans in mind. Not hearing any sounds from the kitchen, I walked toward our bedroom, assuming she might be getting ready for the evening. As I approached, I called out, "Diana, I'm home. Are you in the bedroom?" Her voice, calm and composed, responded, "Yes, Kevin, I'm here." Stepping inside, I found her sitting at her vanity, meticulously applying her makeup. She was dressed in the elegant black dress I had given her for Christmas, her pearl necklace resting delicately around her neck. Her polished dress shoes sat neatly beside her on the floor. What caught my attention next was the open overnight bag on the bench, half filled with casual clothes and undergarments. I hesitated, feeling a flicker of confusion. "Diana, I didn't realize we had plans this weekend. Did I forget something?" "Where are we going?" I asked, forcing a light tone despite the unease creeping up inside me. She let out a slow breath, as if she had been preparing for this conversation. "Kevin, I didn't tell you because I knew this would be difficult. I have plans this weekend, with someone else." Her voice was steady, too controlled, and for a moment, I questioned whether I had misheard her. I blinked, my brain struggling to catch up with the weight of her words. "What do you mean, someone else?" My chest tightened. Diana turned to face me, her expression unyielding. "I wasn't expecting you home this early. I planned to talk to you just before I left. I knew this would hurt you, and I didn't want to fight." The air in the room felt stifling, suffocating. "A date? With another man? Are you serious?" My voice wavered between disbelief and anger. "Since when do we have an open marriage?" She remained unsettlingly composed. "Kevin, it's just for the weekend. I'll be back Sunday, and everything will go back to normal. Since Jolene left, I've felt lost. I need this. Something for myself. Something that reminds me I'm still alive." I stared at her, unable to grasp what she was saying. "Stronger? You think this will make our marriage stronger?" My voice cracked under the weight of it all. "How long has this been going on, Diana? Who is he?" She let out a quiet, almost dismissive laugh. "That doesn't matter. I'm not leaving you, Kevin. I love you. I always have. We've had lunch a few times, but nothing more. I haven't been unfaithful to you. And after this weekend, I won't see him again. My head shook involuntarily, my thoughts reeling. You expect me to just accept this? Pretend this is normal? She sighed, as if exhausted by my inability to understand. I knew you wouldn't see it the way I do. But Kevin, he makes me feel wanted, beautiful. He looks at me in a way I haven't felt in years. I'm getting older, and I just need this. For me. Just once. A tidal wave of emotions crashed over me: anger, heartbreak, confusion. She had made her choice, and I had no idea what to do next. Did he just hear that right? Kevin's mind reeled, struggling to make sense of the words that had so effortlessly fallen from Diana's lips. A break from their marriage, just for the weekend. That was what she wanted. The idea struck him harder than any argument they had ever had. I'll be back by Sunday, she went on, her tone disturbingly casual. After that, we can focus on fixing things. But I need this, Kevin. Every word felt like a fresh wound. Please, try to see it from my perspective. It's just intimacy. It's just one weekend compared to all the time we've spent together. It doesn't change anything. Kevin stood frozen, his mind unable to catch up with what was happening. Who was this woman? What had become of the person he had built his life around? The woman he had loved and trusted now looked at him with steady eyes, telling him she needed to betray him, as if it were the most reasonable thing in the world. It wasn't a request. She wasn't looking for permission, nor was she apologetic. She expected him to accept it, to understand, to simply go along with it. I'm sorry, Kevin, she said, as she methodically packed a bag. But my mind's made up. I'm leaving. His thoughts blurred together in a storm of disbelief. Was this real? She was speaking as if she were heading off for a weekend getaway, not to be with another man. The weight of her words settled deep in his chest, suffocating. This is just something I need to do for myself, she explained, her voice light. It's only for a couple of days. I'll be back Sunday, and then everything will be fine. But Kevin knew that wasn't true. This wasn't just about a fleeting encounter. This was her choosing to disregard everything they had built together. This was betrayal. His hands curled into fists at his sides, his whole body trembling with the effort to hold himself together. Anger, humiliation, and heartbreak crashed over him. It wasn't just that she was leaving, it was the complete indifference in her voice, as if none of it mattered. His throat tightened as he swallowed the pain. How could she do this? But Diana moved with unnerving ease, zipping up her bag, her decision set in stone. Her phone buzzed, and she picked it up immediately, her voice bright and eager as she confirmed her plans with whoever was waiting for her. The sight of it made his blood boil. His heart pounded, his body rigid with the force of holding everything in. He refused to just stand there and let this happen. He wouldn't be a bystander in his own life. As she glanced back at him one last time, there was an almost expectant look in her eyes, like she thought he'd simply accept this, let her go, and wait for her return. I'll be back Sunday, Kevin, she assured him, her voice as nonchalant as if she were running an errand. It's just this once. I'll make it up to you. You'll see. We'll move past this. But Kevin already knew there was no going back. Trust had been shattered beyond repair. His mind raced, emotions simmering dangerously beneath the surface. He drew in a slow, measured breath before speaking, his voice unsettlingly calm. You have until your ride gets here to change your mind. Diana barely reacted. And if I don't? His gaze remained steady. Then I'll make my own plans, but keep your phone on. If I need to find you, I need to know where you are. She didn't even hesitate. She agreed without a second thought, completely oblivious to what was running through his mind. She thought she had him figured out. That was her mistake. The Uber pulled up outside, and without another word, she walked out, leaving Kevin standing there. His fury cooled, settling into something far more controlled, far more resolute. The moment the door closed behind her, he reached for his phone, already knowing what he had to do. His fingers moved swiftly through his contacts until he landed on a name he hadn't thought about in years. Aurora. It had been a long time, but once she had been a significant part of his life. Their connection had always been deep, built on mutual respect, quiet understanding, and something unspoken that had always lingered beneath the surface. He had been there for her in the darkest chapter of her life, after she had lost her husband, Marshall. They had shared something real, but circumstances had kept them apart. Until now. He pressed the call button. The line rang once, twice. Then a familiar, warm voice answered. Kevin? Wow, it's been ages. How are you? There was kindness in her tone, a comfort he hadn't realized he needed. He hesitated, then exhaled. I'm not okay, Aurora, he admitted. That's why I'm calling. A brief pause. What happened? Kevin swallowed hard. Diana, she's spending the weekend with another man, and she doesn't even care. The silence on the other end was telling. Then, finally, Aurora spoke, her disbelief evident. What? Her voice sharpened with emotion. Are you serious? Diana? I thought you two had a strong marriage. Kevin, what's going on? He let out a bitter laugh. I thought so too, but apparently, I was wrong. She just told me, like it was nothing, that she needed this, that it's just a weekend, no big deal, no consequences. Aurora's voice was edged with anger now. Kevin, that's unbelievable. I don't even know what to say. Are you okay? Was he? The question lingered in the air. No, but he was going to do something about it. Kevin let out a heavy breath, uncertainty threading through his words. I can't say I'll be fine, he admitted, but I've made my decision. I refuse to stay in a marriage where this happens. I'm going through with the divorce, and honestly, I just needed to hear your voice. You're the only one I felt like calling. For a moment, Aurora remained silent. Then she exhaled slowly. Kevin, I hate that you're dealing with this, and I won't pretend it doesn't mean something that you reached out to me. The truth is, I've been thinking about you too. There's always been something between us, hasn't there? But I have to be upfront. I was in a relationship for the past year. It ended a few months ago. She paused, her voice tinged with reflection. There just wasn't a spark. I didn't want to stay with someone just because I was afraid of being alone. But now, hearing this from you, it's making me question things. A faint, bittersweet smile crossed Kevin's face. You don't have to worry about me, Aurora. I just needed someone to talk to. But the truth is, I feel like everything is collapsing around me. Diana left me for someone else, and now I'm here, trying to piece together how it all fell apart. Aurora's voice softened. Kevin, you don't have to go through this by yourself. If you need me, I'm here. You've always meant a lot to me. Maybe this is our chance to finally explore what's always been between us. A warmth spread through Kevin's chest. I'd really like that, Aurora. I would. They talked for a while longer, eventually making plans to meet in person. But first, Kevin had to confront the remnants of his marriage. He didn't know what to expect when Diana returned, but he was ready to face whatever came next. That evening, he took the first definitive step toward closing this chapter of his life. He reached out to his lawyer and initiated the divorce process. It was a decision he refused to back down from. When Diana finally walked through the door, she carried herself as if nothing had changed. Slinging her overnight bag onto the couch, she greeted him with a bright, unaffected smile. Hey, sweetheart, I knew you'd be here waiting for me. See? Everything's the same. I'm still your wife, the same person who left on Friday. She moved toward him casually, her tone almost playful. You love me enough to let me have just one little weekend away, don't you? Kevin stood frozen, his disbelief mounting. Her indifference was staggering. She spoke as if her betrayal hadn't just torn their marriage apart. When he finally found his voice, it was quiet, but firm. "Diana, I know exactly what you did. You weren't away on some harmless trip. You spent the weekend with another man. Don't bother denying it. I even know his name." Her smug expression faltered, giving way to sheer shock. How do you know that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Kevin didn't so much as blink. "I didn't have to follow you, Diana. I hired a private investigator. I know everything." Color drained from her face as his words settled in. She stumbled toward the couch, sinking down as if the weight of it all had physically crushed her. You had me followed?" she choked out, her voice trembling. Kevin let the silence stretch between them, the finality of the situation settling in. There was nothing left to say. The trust that had once held their marriage together had shattered beyond repair. When he spoke again, his voice was steady and unwavering. "There's something else you should know, Diana. I wasn't alone this weekend either." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "What do you mean?" she asked, barely able to process his words. "I was with Aurora," he stated plainly. "And this time, it wasn't just reminiscing. It was real. She's the person I should have been with all along." Diana sucked in a sharp breath, his words hitting her like a physical blow. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but nothing came out. The silence between them felt suffocating. Kevin's voice remained resolute as he delivered his final words. "I'm filing for divorce, Diana. This marriage is done. You destroyed it, and I have no interest in fixing something that's already broken." Tears welled in her eyes, but it no longer mattered. He had already moved on in the ways that counted. There was no coming back from this. In the days that followed, Kevin focused on closing this chapter of his life for good. He handled the legal process with a sense of closure, ensuring everything was dealt with fairly, but knowing full well that no document could undo the past. Diana would have to live with the consequences of her choices, just as he had accepted his own reality. As for Aurora, they were stepping into something new, a fresh beginning. And for the first time in a long while, Kevin felt like he was exactly where he was meant to be. This story has come to an end. This story is a powerful reminder that trust is the foundation of any relationship. It takes years to build, but only seconds to destroy. Love isn't just about passion or routine. It's about respect, loyalty, and choosing each other every day. When something feels broken, the answer isn't betrayal. It's honest communication. If you feel lost in a relationship, speak up before it's too late. And if someone crosses a line that can't be uncrossed, know your worth and be brave enough to walk away. Sometimes, heartbreak leads us to the life and the love we truly deserve. Never settle for less than respect and real love. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.